Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Fuel for Success on this wonderful Monday morning. Fuel for Success is so fun and so awesome. This is the only talk show where you get to ask us questions and we make up the answers. Just kidding. How's everybody doing this morning?
Well, buddy, we are doing mighty fine, my friend. How about you for only having 2 hours of sleep?
Considering I only had 2 hours of sleep, I'm actually doing pretty good today. There's a
Two
pretty
hours is
chance
actually good for us.
sometimes, yeah,
That's like sleeping in. That's mission 25 hours right there, my friend.
it is. And ordinarily, it probably wouldn't have even been difficult, but seeing as how we're coming off a weekend of Mission 25 with very little sleep, anyways, it was a little bit challenging to get up this morning. But here I am.
Yep, I totally understand. Major shout out to our one and only from Australia, Jason, my man, who's just a go getter. He's a hustler. He's an awesome guy. What does he call it? A good bloke? He's a good bloke, He's a great guy.
He's a good bloke.
Did I say it right? Bloke?
I
Block?
think so. Bloke. So, good day,
Anyway.
Jason.
Oh, you know what just dawned on me? Is that I didn't plug in my speaker. So I'll be back in a second.
All right, cool. While Matt's fixing his technical difficulties, um, today is Tuesday, and every Tuesday on Fuel for Success, we talk about personal finance and some of the life coaching topics. So we're excited to talk about that this morning. You know, money in our personal lives affects us in so many different ways, and our finances and our budgets and all those things. And what an important topic! And I'm thrilled to talk about it this morning.
Thrilled to talk about it. We're going to start off with Christy's question. One of my favorites is the envelope system. You know, the envelope system wasn't started by Dave Ramsey. It's actually started by our grandmothers.
Yeah,
No, I believe in the envelope system 1 billion%. It is just extreme. And again, we've got a few viewers last week that said it didn't work for them. So at the end of the day, you have to do what works for you. I like the envelope system. Basically, Christy, what it is it's writing down on top of an envelope. It's old fashioned. You know, say for example, I would write down Caleb's baseball, and I would write down one that says, house payment, car insurance, gas, groceries, clothing, entertainment, pretty much everything that's on your regular budget, you need to have an envelope for that you can continuously put cash in. I actually trained my son to do the envelope system, and he's got it right there in his drawer. And he does it. Whenever he gets money, he usually sometimes somebody will give him a 20, or sometimes somebody will give him $50 or whatever. In our travels, or he'll earn it. What he does is he literally we go to the store or the bank and get like either fives or ones, and he'll just feed his envelopes. And what's cool is he's got an envelope called Give, and he puts money in that every time he gets money. So anytime he wants to give, like sometimes we'll be at a mission 25, and Caleb will say, hey, I want to buy that kid a bike. And of course, he always knows. Mike, it's very important. That's one of the biggest mistakes people make when it comes to money is they don't know where they are. They don't have a straight up, honest, realistic evaluation of where they are financially. So what I was going to open the show with, Mike, and then we'll dive into questions. Christy, we'll go back to the envelope system here in a bit. I just wanted to kind of acknowledge your question. We'll kind of break it down in detail either today or next Tuesday. But Mike, one of the best things I've ever done was do a true analysis of my spending. And here's what happens. And this also works for time management. It's really honestly, they work the same. We have to budget our time and we have to budget our money. And a lot of times we have more time than we think we do. How does someone get twice, two, three, four times amount of stuff done than the other person? Well, it's because they manage their time better. They plan it better. They're more intentional with their time. Same thing with money. I know people that make $250,000 a year and they're always broke. I know people that make $50,000 a year and they always have money. So sometimes more time or more money isn't the answer. Sometimes the real hardcore answer, and it hurts, is just good old fashioned managing it and knowing where it is. So one of the best things I've ever done, and anybody that I've ever just talked to about finances, is track your spending from the last 3 months. Here's what would scare the living daylights out of you if you literally did a spreadsheet. You can do it on Excel. Most of your banks, you can download your bank statement right into Excel. It's a good way to organize your finances. It's a good way to track your spending. And I literally would encourage you to literally slow down. I don't care if you got to get a ruler and a pen and literally look at every single expense and take a look at that and add up. Like I remember one, and this is just a confession, I'm nowhere near this now. But I remember one month, and this has been literally a couple years ago because I made a radical change when that happened. I started making my own tea. But dude, I used to go to Starbucks and get their tea sometimes 2 to 3 times a day. And bro, I remember one month, I think I spent like $162 at Starbucks or something. But you wouldn't know that. You know what I mean? You wouldn't know that if you didn't track it, if you didn't really look at it. And so I added up all the unnecessary expenses. And then you actually start to learn patterns about yourself when you do this. When you look back at your last 3 months, it's pretty telling about what your financial patterns are. And a lot of times, probably, I'm going to say up to 40 to 60% of the things that you spent money on, you really didn't need to spend money on. So that's the fastest way, in my opinion, just to have a reality check. I think the quicker that we can have a hardcore reality check about our finances, I mean hardcore, I mean like insane hardcore, then the quicker we're able to get back into financial peace and financial prosperity. Of course, Mike, we both talked about we advise everyone to go through Dave Ramsey. We advise you to go through it, once a year, literally just continuously immerse yourself with his teaching, because a lot of his teachings came from Larry Burkett, who's dead now, but who was extremely amazing in finances. And also a lot of his teachings came from the Bible. Like the Bible has a lot to say about money. The Bible actually gives a lot of principles about money. And so if you can track your spending over the last 3 months and really slow down and do it, really pull out those bank statements and take a good look at it, you're going to find it's going to hurt. It's going to really hurt. You're going to have some pretty serious regret. You're going to have some pretty serious guilt. You'll probably get a lump in your throat, especially if you tend to be an overspender. Mike, you ever met someone that's an overspender, or they're tight? Someone that's just really tight. In fact, we were talking about that the other day. We were talking about somebody was extremely tight. We were just kind of discussing the philosophy. Well, is it good? I think we were at a dinner table, and somebody had an opportunity to pick up the bill, but we had insisted or whatever. And so we were discussing, like, what would this person that's considered tight have done in this situation? It was kind of funny because there's some people that are very liberal with their money. They'll give you their last $10. And then there's some people, if they had $1,000, they wouldn't give you $10, So let's kind of talk about that a little bit, in your opinion, Mike. The difference between being a spender or somebody that is tight, and in your opinion, what kind of balance should we have? What kind of mentality should we have? Because we're taught to give, but yet we're also taught to save. We're taught to be wise with our money, but yet we're also taught to be liberal with it. The Bible has a pretty wide variety about different principles. The key is principles. And before we dive into that, let me just encourage everyone to take action and do that. Do an analysis of your last 3 months spending. I actually encourage everyone to also at the end of the year do an analysis of what you spent for that year. I dare you. I dare you to literally acknowledge what you spent on Starbucks in 2013. I dare you. I dare you to like face it because it would probably scare you and it would probably make you like boycott it and never want to go again. I like what Serge said, Mike, as you go into it. And Serge is a guy who, in fact, Serge, are you able to come on camera? It'd be neat to do a little interview with you because I know you personally, and you went through Dave Ramsey, and Serge, Mike, and his wife are financially free, and they learned the hard way. But I want to maybe hear their story if they're able to come on. Mike, as we're working that, what is your take on the difference between people that are spenders and people that are tight with their money? What should be the philosophy?
Well, remind me to get well. Let me cover something real quick that I wanted to touch on, and that is there's actually tools to help you track your spending. Mint.com is one of them. That's actually owned by Intuit, the TurboTax people now. But there's a free option that
What's
will
it called?
like connect to your bank account. Mint.com. Um, and a lot of the banks, I know one of the banks that I use is Wells Fargo, which is great if you love to pay fees. And the but they have online tools that uh, literally you can go to your bank statement, say categorize this, and it'll show you the different categories because they take your spending and place it in categories pretty accurately. So it's a pretty interesting tool. And I know I think U.S. Bank has a similar thing. So there are like tools to help you recognize where your spending is. Um, but I would say as far as the spending, somebody who's tight versus a liberal spender, to me there's a big difference between giving and spending. Okay, and in my opinion, I want to be a liberal giver, but I don't want to necessarily be a liberal spender. In other words, I want to look for ways to save money on my cell phone bill, for example. I want to look for ways to save money on my grocery bill, and spending unnecessarily, to merchants for my lifestyle. That's where you want to cut your spending. And to me, I want to be a liberal giver, but more of a tight spender, if that makes sense. So that's kind of the way I approach it. And
I
to me,
like
there's a big difference between those two.
I like that a lot, Mike, and I think that's important because a lot of times when people go buy something, they don't really look at the price. They don't look to see if there's coupons. They don't look to see if they can get it cheaper on Craigslist. You'd be surprised how many people use their iPad one time and are selling it like half the price on Craigslist. Like legit. You'd be surprised the amount of money that people could save if they would slow down. And saving, I like what you said. It's a mentality, it's an attitude. It's not being tight or greedy or cheap. It's being smart. It's being wise because think about it. Money answers all things. So you want as much of it as you can. The more money you have, the more answers and problems you can solve, the more good you can do. The more you can bless your family, your friends, the more you can give to the poor, the more you can help the kingdom. So, again, there's a fine line between greed. I've known poor people that were greedy, Mike. I've known poor people that had poverty. It's not amount, it's attitude, it's spirit, it's mentality. So a lot of times people think, well, like for example, whether in buying a car, right? I mean, I proudly drive a used car that's paid for, thank God. But sometimes it's embarrassing because you could drive something a whole lot nicer. But at the same time, you got to be willing. I like what Dave says: pay now, play later. Let's see let's look at what Britain said here. This is good because Britain's a big giver, but she's also very good. Said people discount coupons way too quickly. I went 2 years without ever paying out of my pocket for toothpaste, body wash, shampoo, razors, toothbrushes, all in taking time to learn how to make them work for you. That money can be used elsewhere. See, that's awesome. That's very good right there, Britain. Perfect analogy, right? Does she look like a cheapskate when everybody's in the grocery line waiting for her? She's like handing every coupon. You know, Mike, there's couponers that literally save $60,000 to $70,000 a year just from couponing. There's a trade-off in that, though, for people like Mike and I, whose time is literally worth money. So sometimes
Right.
that's a challenge to think about slowing down and cutting coupons. You know what I mean? So there's a fine line there for certain type of people, depending on what line of work they're in. Mike, I got a quick one I want to throw out, unless you had a comment on what we just
Sure.
talked about.
Well, I was just going to say that there's a general principle that convenience is expensive, and so in every case where you see an opportunity for convenience as opposed to spending more time or whatever, you're always paying for that convenience, and we see that in. I mean, if you look at the groceries you buy, the closer to being ready the food you buy is, generally the more expensive it is. And so when you buy raw ingredients and things that you're going to put the effort into, it's less expensive. And anytime that we want a quick solution, and you mentioned it before, even like looking for a deal on a used iPad or something, as opposed to just going out and buying one. Um, so every time we go after convenience, it typically costs us money. So what was your question?
Well, I want to dive into a couple of questions that I have for you, but before we do, I would like to throw this out there because there is an element of this that's very important to discuss. When you're self-employed, which this is what I want to talk about, and you're 100% commission, which is pretty much what I am and pretty much what you are to a degree, where we're literally pretty much for example, if 30 minutes down the road, you could buy, maybe you could buy, I don't know. Let's say toilet paper was on sale for $1, but it was at the grocery store 30 minutes down the road. You got to take into consideration, even though you're saving, you got to take into consideration gas. You got to take into consideration time. So there sometimes can be a collision when you're out to save money. Like, for example, let's say you're literally worth $60 to $70 an hour. That's what you make an hour. Then you
Mm.
spending 2 hours mowing your grass when you could pay a high school kid $20 to $30 to do it. You're actually, you would think, wash, I can save money by mowing my own grass. Actually, not. If you're literally worth, if you can make, if an hour of your time can produce $70, you're much wiser to hire the high school kid and give him $10, $20 so you can continue to work on your high-end activities that produce more money. So I don't want someone to get this mentality that they save so much that they forget to value their time as well, because sometimes, Mike, time is money. It literally is money. So while you may be saving money now, you're actually losing money by investing all that time into something that you could have easily outsourced to somebody a whole lot cheaper. That right there, Mike, I just wanted to throw in for the maybe entrepreneur, maybe the businessman, maybe the self-employed person, because a lot of times what happens is, even in like hiring an administrator or another person, you think, well, I mean, I don't want to give that money away because I could easily use that money for more marketing, or I could use that money, I could get a raise. But in reality, if you're smart with it and you can hire someone at a cheaper price, which you always can, then you've just bought your time back. Like when I used to have a personal assistant, I looked at it like when I was giving him, I think it was like $10 an hour, and he would work like 3 hours a day for me. So it's like $30 a day, right? I didn't look at it like I was losing $30 a day. I looked at it like I was buying 3 hours of my time back for $30. And 3 hours of my time was well worth $30. So I just think that's important, Mike, as we're diving into getting out of debt and saving and being conservative. Yes, we do need to be conservative, but don't view somebody that spends money on things like that as not being conservative. You know what I'm saying? So it just all depends, Mike. I mean, it just, what's your take on that? I know you've had some experience with this, and I just want to hear what your take is.
Absolutely. And you mentioned earlier that we budget time, we budget money, and there's a pretty tight relationship really between time and money. And for exact, you're exactly right, guys. Like you and I both, literally we trade our time for money, and in a very real sense. Now, when I had what my wife would call a regular job, right, where it was 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, like I've ever worked 40 hours a week
Huh.
anyway, a regular 60-hour a week job, whatever. Uh, when that was the case, then the situation's a little bit different. Um, because mowing my grass would be something that, I wasn't actively making money. It wasn't taking away from money making time. It was in the evening, whatever, that sort of thing. But today, it literally would be, I the only way I make money is by spending my time. And so that makes total sense. When you think about it in terms of I am trading my time for money, can I get more time for this much money? And it becomes almost like a mental stock exchange sort of situation where I'm saying, okay, and it gets a little bit more complicated because it's not always the same, right? Like this time isn't worth as much money as that time because of different projects and those sort of things. Um, but but that's a great way to look at it. It's no different than hiring somebody in a business, exactly as you pointed out. I did want to say, Christy said that her son is getting ready to start a lawn mowing business to save for a bike. That's pretty awesome.
I love that. And you know
Um,
something I would say to your son as he's going door to door? How old is he? Number one, I want to ask that. Number two,
I was
I
going to ask that too.
really believe that he needs to sell this idea to people that, sir, can I mow your grass? I'm saving money to buy a bike, because people love those kind of stories. They love it when they see kids out hustling for a goal, not just, oh, can I please mow your grass today? And then they think that kid's out going and buying, Kool-Aid and going to the fair, which that's fine. But if some kid came to me and knocked on my door and said, can I mow your grass? I'm trying to save up for a bike. I would probably give him double what he's asking for, just because I would so admire the hustle. Yeah, see a 14-year-old kid knocking on my door. So make sure you tell Evan to sell the vision, to literally look in the eye and say, sir, how you doing? My name is Evan. I'm going through the neighborhood to see if you'd like your grass mowed, car wash, anything I can do. I'm raising money to buy a new bike. People love that kind of stuff. And if you're a parent out there and your kid by the age of 14 hasn't knocked doors trying to work, you're way behind the eight ball, my friends. You have got to build a work ethic in your kids. It's the smartest thing Christy can do right here, is let her son do this. This is actually going to put in him traits that could make him a really good businessman, a very wealthy businessman, and a very smart with his money. I think that's just um, good job, Christy. Awesome. What kind of bike is he trying to buy? All that good stuff. I'm just curious. Tell me the story. Donna, and looks like we got some fired up people on coupons, Mike. Hey, all you couponers,
Well,
uh, feel free to drop me a few in the mail as you're clipping, just because I literally don't have time to clip. But if you would send me some, I would use them.
yeah. So, and we talked a little bit, and Donna's talking about couponing. Also, Britain, some pretty amazing stories of some money they saved and those sort of things. Just like anything, um, as you said, you want to look at the whole picture and see, okay, is this worth my time? Is it worth the amount of effort I put in? Like for example, let's say I want to buy a used iPad, and I look on Craigslist, and the iPad is on the other side of the Twin Cities here in Minneapolis, and let's say I'm going to save $40, but I look at it and say, well, wait a minute, I'm going to have to drive. That's going to cost me, $25 in gas to drive up there to pick it up. You have to think about the total cost of everything. But this is interesting because the way that I would break this down, Donna said she saved $6,000 last year on couponing, which that's an incredible $115 a week. Okay, that she saved couponing. So to me, I would look at it, do the you know the cost breakdown, evaluate it, and say, okay, if I'm spending for me personally, if it took me 2 hours a week to do that couponing, then it wouldn't be worth it, right? Because I could my time in developing software and other things would be more valuable, and would, those 2 hours a week would add up to more than 6,000 in a year.
Right.
But if it was, well, if it was two, it'd be close. But if it was, 4 hours a week, then it would be clear that I wouldn't do that, because it wouldn't save me any, actually would cost me money to do that.
Right. Well, you know what? Like, for example, and I love what Donna said, and congratulations, Donna. That's awesome. So, Mike, here's another way to spin it. Ready for this? Let's say you're spending 2 hours a week couponing, but while you're couponing, you're listening to a Dave Ramsey or a Fuel for Success or some kind of coaching on YouTube. Then now all of a sudden, you've just maximized your time because you're couponing and you're growing and you're feeding your mind while you're clipping. So I would advise that always maximize your time. That's the secret. Al, you're so right. Coupons for Whole Foods and my son's baseball training, yes, sir. But all of those are very wise investments because the healthier I am, the more I can do. And if I invest right in my son's baseball training, he's going to be cutting me a fat check in about, I'd say, 8 to 10 years when he signs his contract. So I'm investing. I don't look at his baseball. I look at that as an investment. Like, I spent 90 minutes yesterday doing his training. It's a lot of time. But if God so blesses Caleb and allows him to play professional baseball, then you know what, my friends? It was a wise investment. So thank you for the tip here, Aaron. I love you guys sharing tools and moneysavingmom.com. I love you guys sharing tools and ideas because it's good. This is what Fuel for Success is all about, is helping each other out and all that good stuff. So, Mike, I'll give you an example. Like, for example, when it comes to juicing, right? Everybody thinks it's so expensive. Well, it is, but it's not. It all depends on how, what kind of value you place on your health, A, and B, believe it or not, juicing has saved me money because I'm not as hungry as I used to be because my body's not polluted with toxins and all those chemicals. And I have more energy, which more energy produces more money because you can work longer, you can get more done, higher quality of life. So, in my opinion, I don't ever look at juicing as expensive. I look at it as I feel like I'm saving money juicing than living the typical American diet. We assume that because somebody eats organic or they juice that they're spending more. They might be spending more. It's kind of like someone that buys $100 shirt. And you're like, I would never buy $100 shirt. Well, that $100 shirt might last 2 years when you're buying like 5 and 6 $20 shirts. It all depends, Mike. It really depends on, for example, can I get a cheaper iPhone or can I get a cheaper phone than the iPhone? Absolutely. I could probably save a lot of money by not having the iPhone. But this saves me money, this makes me money, and this helps me have a higher quality of life because of the apps, because of the use of it. So I think, Mike, I like what you said. And everything, it's looking at it, it's evaluating, it's calculating the cost, the time, the investment, the return on the investment. For example, look at someone like, let's just dive here for a minute. If we have any pastors on the show, a pastor would fly to have me come in to speak, right? So there's a $300 to $400 on a plane ticket, and then there's hotel, and then there's food, and then there's an offering. So what they would get is I would bring results, motivation, encouragement, but they're going to end up spending, anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000 depending on how much hotel and airfare and what they give. When they're wiser to buy Train 12 and have a bigger impact, less money, greater results. Most people don't see it that way. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people don't see it that way when it comes to food, when it comes to material things. I just think it all comes down to attitude. I think it comes down to being intentional. I think it comes down to giving thought to it, evaluating it. That's my take. Mike, why don't you wrap us up? I know we're getting close to being out of time. Why don't you kind of
I
sum everything up? I don't know if anybody brought any questions on board because I haven't been looking. But let's.
actually, I have three things. First of all, Christy's son wants a mountain bike, and he's already saved $102. So you'd asked that question.
How much is
I
the
put it
mountain
up there
bike?
on the current topic. And
How much is the mountain bike, Christy?
the other point that I wanted to make too, and we talked about evaluating the cost of everything, and we used couponing as an example, and I love what you said about multitasking. The other thing is that in like Britain's case, right, she buys stuff from missions so that she can help, serve the poor. So that's part of a passion of hers, and when it's your passion, um, the scales of balance sort of start to not necessarily make as much difference. Do you know what I'm saying? Or if it's like a hobby, if it's something you literally enjoy doing, right,
Yeah.
then the raw calculation doesn't have as much of a meaning, and that's okay, right? um, so so that's just a general guideline when we say, evaluate the cost. Is it worth my time? Is it worth all of it? That those are other like non-mathematical factors that factor into it, that can make a huge difference. And the last thing I wanted to do, I actually want to know more about this price matching stuff that they're talking about. I don't even know what that means, so maybe
Yeah.
I'm just not wise in the ways of
For 30 seconds.
couponing and shopping. So
Can you give us a little word, Donna, on the price matching? Because I'm with you. What do they do? Call the stores? Do they look online? Sometimes that's good to do as well. Mike, this was a great show. I got a lot out of some of the things I read. I got a lot out of what you shared. I trust that. Walmart will match the price. I get it. So you'll say Target's selling it for, um, you know, Target's selling it
oh, I see. So you
for
can
30.
find where it's on sale locally,
You're
and then
going to
you
buy a
don't have to run
regular
all over town.
40 at Walmart. Target's selling it for 30. I get it. Okay. Well, Chrissy, that's awesome. His bike is 115, and he's raised how much? 100.
109, I think.
Huh?
I think 109. I'm 102. He's at 102.
All right. Me and Michael take care of the balance. We're going to drop a $20 bill in the mail today. I'm going to drop a $20 bill in the mail to take care of the balance for him because I admire him. And you tell him, you let him watch his show, he's going to be a winner. I admire any kid that'll get out there and hustle. So inbox me your address on Facebook. Mike and I will take care of this, and we'll send $20 today. It's coming in the mail. You tell him we're proud of him. I'm gonna show it to Caleb. I love that kind of stuff. Don't you, Mike? Don't you admire a young guy that'll get out and hustle and execute?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Good
Well,
stuff.
we'll be back tomorrow morning, my friends, at 9 a.m. for Fuel for Success. We're going to be talking about spirituality tomorrow. And please feel free to join us at 9 a.m. And remember that you can give this link to any of your friends. It's free. Go to fuelforsuccess.tv. You can drop all of our episodes on your what are they nowadays, Mike? iPod? iPod, on your iPhone, wherever you listen to
Any
music.
device.
Just go to iTunes and type Fuel for Success. Of course, you can watch us on YouTube. Hey, while you're doing laundry, watch us. While you're couponing, watch us. Stay connected. We love you. And most importantly, tell your family and friends about Fuel for Success, my friends. Hey, Mike, I love you, man. Go take a nap. You well deserve it.
All right. We'll see you, Matt. See you, everybody.
Inbox me.